Warning, this video may contain previously revealed information that may spoil certain elements of the event. If you wish to go in completely blind, turn back now.
It is one of the strangest tales ever told. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you.
Welcome to the Dark Fantastic!
I'm not a monster, Jake.
I'll show you who I am and what I am.
Yeah, you love this one. It's a scream, baby.
It's showtime.
I am your mother.
Time to float.
I feel like she's not a mistake at all. Like she's better for being different.
Gender fluid.
No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for.
Hey, Michael!
What's your favorite scary movie?
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now is your chance to, well, we've warned you.
Hello everyone, welcome to Theme Park Workshop. Can you believe it? Halloween Horror Night season is upon us. HHN 34 starts in just a couple of days from when this video is going out, which is wild to me. I still have so much catching up to do, still so much prep to do, still need to get a fit. But I do have the shirt, so I think we are in good time and good hands and everything. I'm so excited for this year. I'm sure if you're part of the online chatter, you've heard it as well, that this year is shaping up to maybe be one of the best years that we've had, at least in a while. I've loved Halloween Horror Nights since I started going in 2019. I know there's so much history that I missed by starting so late, but this year it seems like they've just taken every criticism that they've heard and is just really applying it to make this the biggest, most immersive year that we've had in a hot minute. And I've loved every year. Some years were like better house years, some years were better zone years, some years were better theme years, some had a mix of the two, some felt like they were budget cuts, but it's still a lot of fun because it's HHN, we love HHN. This year just feels like they go in all out, and I love that. I'm really excited to see how I experience that, how I love it. You know, I think that's, how will this flavor taste to me? I think it's going to be a really exciting flavor, but I haven't had the flavor yet. You know what I mean? Is that a metaphor that makes sense? I don't know. But we're going to get right into it. It's going to start with my 10 through 1 of the houses, then go on to my hype for the zones and the hype for the street experiences and the hype for the shows. I'm very hyped. Coming in at number 10 for the houses, as far as what I am most looking forward to, is one of the IPs, and that's Jason Universe. From what we understand, Jason Universe is going to take different scenes that we know from the different movies and just give a Jason experience like we've never had before here at HHN 34. Jason's not new to Horror Nights, but he is new to me. This is my first year ever watching a Friday the 13th movie. I've heard they're not very good, and now I've started to see them, and no, they're not very good, but I understand kind of why he's iconic. But it is my number 10 because Jason Voorhees, I don't see how a Jason Voorhees house can be the scariest thing, if only because in the 4 movies that I've seen so far, he's not all that scary. He doesn't quite do it for me the way someone like Michael Myers does. I love Halloween and I love Michael Myers. I love some of the other slasher characters. And Jason's just kind of there for me. That said, I know there's a lot of room for this house to impress me and scare me, especially because in these panels, I've been doing a lot of panels for HHN lately, and in them they've compared this house to Insidious the Further from last year. If you weren't at HHN last year, Insidious the Further was a house I don't think anyone was really looking forward to all that much, and then it turned out to be the scariest house of the event, maybe the scariest house in like a decade. There's some long timers who are like, no, that's the scariest house that I've done. I can't wrap my head around how that's going to apply to Jason, but I'm still, again, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it because I'm excited to see the story pan out as I'm catching up on those movies. And then, you know, I like the Fast and Furious location enough. Yeah, it's just one of those houses where, like, going into it, there's a lot of room for it to impress me and scare me and get me going through. And I don't need a house to be scary to love it. I really like Chucky. Bugs Eaten Alive is one of my favorite houses of all time. But Jason, But Jason, I'm not entirely sold on it yet, but I am still very hyped and excited to see what he does. It's not like I'm gonna skip the house. My number 9 is Fallout. Fallout, not too familiar with the games. I played a little bit of New Vegas, but I have started watching the television show, which is what this house is based on. It's based on season 1. I think they've teased a little bit of the upcoming season 2 at the end as well. And I'm really enjoying that show on Amazon Prime. But here's the thing. Here is the unfortunate thing about Fallout. To me, I'm just not super duper convinced that it is horror. But I am very, very intrigued to see how they translate that into at least an immersive attraction, a walkthrough attraction. How do they give it that HHN spin? Again, I don't necessarily need to be scared to enjoy a house. And I understand, like, Fallout is definitely scarier than an IP that I would classify under the horror umbrella, like Beetlejuice. But still, I am kind of like, okay, what do you got? What do you got? It's a great show so far. I just watched episode 4, which is kind of giving that horror vibe more than any other episode so far. So I am excited to see how they do it. Some of the pictures that are coming out, some of the details that are coming out. I'm like, okay, this could be interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to the vibe. I think that's why it's above Jason. Even if I'm not scared by it, I'm going to love this like retro future meets dystopian vibe. My number 8 most hyped house is Grave of Flesh. This is the first original on my list. And the reason it is so low for me is because it sounds generic. The way they describe this is like you're being buried alive, the house. Buried alive, the house. And from what I've heard, I'm sure they've said more about it, I just haven't heard more about it. And so this is just kind of ranking a little bit lower for me on that account, on that principle. There have been some houses over the years that sound kind of generic, like Descendants of Destruction, but even a house like that had a bigger hook for me than Grave of Flesh does. That said, as I said with Jason Universe, there's a lot of room for this house to really surprise me and impress me and scare me. Not least of which, graveyard houses historically scare me the most. Graveyard Games, which was the second house I ever did in HHN, which is wild to me looking back, but that's just the way it went, because it was very, very scary. I'm still like nervous thinking about it. I'll definitely do it if they bring it back. The Darkest Steel had really, really scary sections for me that just got under my skin. Of course, HHN, it's going to be scary, but like get under my skin scary. And I think Grave of Flesh has that possibility. It has that potential. It's just that that hook. It's not quite connecting with me yet. Why I should be looking forward to this house more than any other house. But that said, if it is anything close to Graveyard Games, and from looking at the facade, it's Unmasking the Horror season, looking at the facade, it does look like it's going to be closer to something like Graveyard Games than maybe something campy. I know people were talking about on the image, the creature on there kind of resembles the Depths of Fear characters. I'm trying to remember what they're called. Mouth brooders? I think they're mouth brooders. Some have said that kind of resembles like more of like a terrestrial dirt-based creature instead of like an aquatic-based creature. So people are like, maybe it's like campy. I don't think it's going to be campy. I think it's going to be very scary, but I don't know what else I'm going to like about it besides it being scary, because it does, again, it sounds so generic. I'm still looking forward to it. My number 7, when I've been talking to friends and family about kind of what I'm looking forward to this year, I said my number 7 can really go anywhere and be true. Right now, my number 7 is Gulkin, Monsters of the North. Gulkin is in that monstrous tradition where it explores different monsters of a culture, and I really like that concept. It gives these different cultures and these different folklore their place to shine, and they do make for very immersive houses. They do make for very scary houses, again, because you only got a few minutes. You really gotta give this monster its chance to shine and impress you and whatnot. I'm looking forward to it a lot, and I'm also not putting it up much higher for the same reason as Monstros. Monstros, to me, was a house that left a very strong first impression. In fact, I think it's one of the most consistent houses I've ever been through. Every time I went through it, it was very, very scary. Every time I went through it, they were just always hitting their marks. And maybe this is unfair. I think it's very unfair, honestly, to project onto Gulkin the same idea of like, you're going to impress me really a lot. And Gulkin also has that possibly very cold factor, which is always fun to go through in an HHN house because air conditioning in Florida. We love it. With Monstros, I just said it was consistent, it was very scary, but I never got more out of it on redos, on rewalkthroughs. And I have fears that when every year there's always that one house that I love right out the gate, Halloween, Last of Us, Monstros, and then it just doesn't really do much more to me. I kind of fall off it as the year goes on. I fear that's going to be Gulkin for me. Again, not a fair criticism to throw at it. I do think this house is going to be everything I want it to be. I also hope that it's the and more part. But I am looking forward to all of these houses, even though they're ranked really low. That's just how strong of a year it seems like we have lined up. But yeah, Gulkin, looking forward to it. Excited to see how I'm scared. Excited to meet some new monsters. Love men the monsters. Number 6 is an interesting one because I don't think it's a house I'm going to be redoing a lot. I don't think it's a house that I'm going to want to wait 2-3 hours for. I don't think it's going to be all that scary. I don't think it's giving me a whole lot to really latch on to from August to November. But it's just one of those houses where it's like, I gotta see how they did it. And that is Five Nights at Freddy's. I have minimal connection to this series, to this franchise. Of course, if you grew up in like the 2010s, like me, you are very culturally familiar with Five Nights at Freddy's. That game is just impossible to escape. Everyone talks about the lore. If you hear the word Markiplier, somewhere in the back of your mind, you hear Five Nights at Freddy's. So there's that, but I've never played the games. I don't think they're really up my alley. I know we just had the movie come out, which is what this maze is based on, or this house is based on. I haven't seen the movie yet. I will see the movie before the event starts. So why is this my number 6 most anticipated house of the year if I don't think I'm going to like it, and I don't have a connection to the franchise, and I've just put Gulkin down, I've just put Grave of Flesh down, even though I think I'm going to enjoy them more than Five Nights at Freddy's. I've said that Fallout, don't think it's going to be scary, but I'm looking forward to the vibes. What vibe am I looking forward to with FNAF? Jason has a lot of room to scare me. Why is FNAF number 6? And I just have to see the Jim Henson puppets. I have to see them in the flesh. I have to see them before my eyes because the Jim Henson Company makes great work. I need to see it before me. That's really... If every house had Jim Henson, they would be as high as Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm easy to please, apparently. But again, we've been looking forward to Five Nights at Freddy's for several years. Especially for as long as I remember. For several years. It's always felt like it could be a fun fit for the event. And it certainly has a lot going forward to it. Again, the cultural moment. Every year, there's always speculation that we're getting the Five Nights at Freddy's. It's kind of wild that we're getting the Five Nights at Freddy's house. This year, it's finally happening. I've got to see what this moment's been all about, you know? Number 5, for me, is a little bit similar. I just got to see how they did it. That's Terrifier. Damien Leone's Terrifier. I hesitate to say that I'm a fan of the series. I have seen all 3 films. I haven't seen the shorts, like All Hallows Eve and stuff, but I have seen all the ones with the name Terrifier and their feature length. I've seen all those. And, like, the first one, not a great movie, but it is saved by like David Howard Thornton giving a fantastic, iconic performance as Art the Clown that even if you hate the character, even if you, and what he does, as you should, and you just hate the movie that he's in, you're just nevertheless like entranced and enthralled by Art the Clown. But yeah, the first week, not very good in my opinion. 2, I think is very charming. It is the only Terrifier film that I own, even though I do think 3 is actually a good horror movie, a good slasher movie. 2 just has an interesting charm to it. And I think Sienna is one of the best final girls. So maybe I am more of a fan of Terrifier than I'm letting on. The series is intense. It is gross. It is gory. It is gritty. It's everything that I think HHN has kind of gotten this reputation of, here's the line, we are not crossing that. And it sounds like they're fully embracing that line cross. It's really just one of those where it's like, I gotta see how it's done. I gotta see how they do it. How are they crossing that line? How are they gonna gross us out what is it all going to be, you know? There's obviously a whole lot of love behind this franchise from the people behind HHN. I'm interested to see that love poured out. Will I be going through it a ton? Will it cross lines for me? We'll see. I'm at least doing it twice because, spoiler alert, they've talked about the wet path and the dry path Symphony of Blood finale, and you just gotta do the wet path. I need to see what that experience is like to get as wet as JP River Adventure and an HHN house, and the grossest HHN house in a long time. I gotta see how it's done. Will I love it? I really don't know. I really don't. This could be just so revolting and so smelly and so gross that I never want to walk through this house again after my required 2 runs. But I gotta see how they did it. That's really all it is. Number 4 is Dolls Let's Play Dead. This one is really high for me, and a lot of it has to do with a previous house, a house from years past before I started going, called Dollhouse of the Damned. From what I understand, that house is a fan favorite. It is considered one of the best HHN houses. I think Mike Aiello, I think he's been on record saying that's his favorite house that they've ever made at the event, or at least it's up there for him. So to see another doll house, when that is the legacy they're living up to, that's exciting to me. That's very exciting to me. Especially as someone who never got to do that first house. Similar to, like, I never got to do Slaughter Cinema. I was so excited for Slaughter Cinema 2, and that ended up being one of my all-time favorite houses. We will be hearing about that soon, by the way. Slaughter Cinema down this video. So I'm interested to see what Dolls Let's Play Dead is like. Even if it could be the scariest thing, it could be like a very, very scary doll house, or it could be as campy as something like Bugs Eaten Alive, because I've loved both. And heck, if it's Bugs tier, if it's Bugs B-movie tier, I'm sold. I am so sold. This will probably end up in my top 10 of all time as well, which is a list that's very dynamic, apparently. But even if it's just like a very scary dollhouse, I think there's a lot of potential there, and I'm looking off into the distance because I'm imagining what this experience can be like, and I'm very excited to just live it. I'm so pumped to see what this dollhouse is like, and that's why it's at my number 4, because I'm looking forward to it more than all those others. My number 3 most anticipated house of HHN 34 is an interesting one, because I really don't align myself with this property all that much. This is the last IP house, yes, I'm looking at my notes. This is the last IP house on my list, and that's WWE's The Horrors of the Wyatt Six. I'm not a huge WWE person. I don't watch professional wrestling at all, really. But I do, a lot of folks in my family are big fans of professional wrestling and WWE. And I do remember walking downstairs one day, and one of Bray Wyatt's appearances as The Fiend was happening, and I was entranced. And WWE has always had some element of horror, as far as I'm familiar with, like The Undertaker and Kane are classics. They had HHN houses back in Hollywood back in the day, fun fact. But Bray Wyatt just really had this aura about him and this mythology around him that even below casual of a fan, I'm more like, I appreciate the art of it, mostly thanks to the Florence Pugh movie Fighting With My Family, released in 2019, which has nothing to do with the Wyatt Six, but like that got me the appreciation for WWE and Bray Wyatt, what he did with this character. And just every time I'd go downstairs and WWE was on and any of the Wyatt stuff was happening, I just had to sit down and watch it and be super entranced. I know a lot of people are down on the idea of a WWE house. They think it's just going to be like wrestling the house, and they don't love wrestling. Why would they like it as an HHN house? But this has so much potential because of how scary and how horror it already is, and it's going to be really leaning into that and the mythology of the Stark family and team of the Wyatt Six. We know through the years there's always been this love for the Wyatts, and Bray Wyatt especially. There is some tributes to him over in The Darkest Steel, and I remember that being a big deal. No pun, not really a pun. Whatever that was, wasn't intended. There's a lot of love for him from the HHN team, and so I'm very excited to see it culminate finally in this house. And I think it's also my number 3 because I'm like putting so much energy into convincing people, like, if this is your number 10, you're going to be so wrong. You're going to be so surprised by what this has to offer. No, you really should be looking forward to this. And that's honestly why it's my number 3, because like, I think it's such the underdog that I'm loving it more. We're talking about Terrifier. That's an underdog story from like a movie that cost 5 nickels to now it's an HHN house. I think in some strange way, the Wyatt 6 is kind of that for the fandom. It's like, yeah, no, you're not looking forward to this, but you really should be looking forward to this. And until I walk through it, I'm going to be preaching that gospel of the Wyatt 6. Like, you got to look forward to it, guys. My number 2, my number 1 have been going back and forth, but it's really, I think this is probably the most locked down still. Like, they're very close, but it really just had to be this way. I mentioned before that big Slaughter Cinema 2 girly. I love that house so much, and it's getting a spinoff right after that house had its run. And here we are with Hatchet and Chains, Demon Bounty Hunters. Listen, I'll always be excited to see what comes out of the Slaughter Cinema world. Slaughter Cinema 2 was a house I really enjoyed. It was the house I closed the event with. It was literally in the last minutes of the event, that was the last house that I did. And so there's just so much love that I have for that house and just around this sub-series of HHN, and I'm so excited to see it spin off into so many things this year. Kind of funny, Hatchet and Chains is my least favorite of the movies that they had in the house last year, but it's also because it felt like it was too constrained. It felt like they had so much they wanted to do with that film, and they just couldn't fit it all into a couple of hallways. So I'm excited to see what it's like expanded, and they really get to expand more on the mythology, on these lovable, likable, enjoyable characters of Hatchet and Chains and these Old West demons. I think I'm going to be thoroughly thrilled. The reason it's not my number 1, even though, again, Slaughter Cinema 2, it's in my top 7, top 8 houses of all time, and it's getting a spinoff, and that's only my number 2. What could my number 1 be? Well, if you're following along at the list of all the houses that are here this year, you'll know that my number 1 house is El Artista, A Spanish Haunting. It's hard not to be really excited for this house when it is the signature house of the year. The main character of this house is Sergio Navarro, and he's basically the icon of the year. This is the icon house. This is his haunting, and that's spilling out into the zones, especially the Origins of Horror Zone, which is through Minion Land and all of that, and just walking through that and seeing all the gothic stuff. Oh, I love it. I love walking through it. I'm gonna love walking through it at night when all of HHN is hitting me from all corners. It's hard not to be hyped about it when it's the signature house, it is the icon house, it is the themed house, and they also have the confidence to put it in a soundstage. I still think about poor Chance, who she finally got her year, she finally got her event, and she was stuck in the MIB tent in a 3D house, and it didn't go over well from what I hear. But to have so much confidence to just put it in this big space and let it breathe and let it shine, and there's already so much love for this character from this team. I'm excited to see it. I also love a good gothic house. Bride of Frankenstein Lives is my favorite of all time, and it had those gothic vibes for sure. I cannot wait to see what goes down inside El Artista, A Spanish Haunting. I can't think of any reason not to be excited for it, and that's, again, why it's my number 1 most anticipated house of the year. I am beside myself. I'm like trying to think of words to describe how excited I am, but I really am just beside myself and how excited I am to see how they do this house and how it affects the event overall. Oh, it's done by the team of frickin' Deadman's Pier and Blood Moon and Deadman's Pier. I've made my case that it's not my favorite house of all time, but it's definitely like one of the most beautiful houses of all time, for sure. And to do that with a house that's, I'm sure it's gonna be scary because it's gonna have these like gothic ghosts and like haunted house vibes. I cannot wait for it. And Blood Moon I loved. So I know it's kind of behind that same creative director. And it's for the freaking icon house, as I've said before, like, oh yeah, I can't wait. So that's my top 10 most anticipated houses. Let's go into the zones now. As you can see, I already bought the zone shirt. I've not been through a zone with actors in it, with characters in it, and nevertheless, I'm just so hyped for them. This is the strongest lineup on the forefront that I can think of that we've ever had. I think the closest I can think of might be HHN 32, where every zone was around Oddfellow. And I know we are losing a zone technically this year because we've had 5 zones in the past, as long as I've been going, definitely beyond that too. And now we've technically got 4. Even so, I think these are going to be 4 extremely heavy hitters. And now without any further ado, let's not waste any more time. Let's just go into ranking my most anticipated of these 4 zones. Number 4 is Masquerade Dance of Death. This is the Hollywood zone. This is with vampires and it's Masquerade, kind of giving Van Helsing 2004 a little bit. Nevertheless, Masquerade Dance of Death, I think it's going to be a lot of fun walking through it. I love the stained glass going on in there. I do love a good vampire zone. Who doesn't love vamp anything? But Vamp 69 was such a fun zone for me to go through. I know this is going to be a very different vibe, and I'm looking forward to that. Hollywood always is the most fun zone to kind of live in, just hang out in, because you're going to get so much more out of there. I'm excited to see Hollywood overrun by dancing vampires and gothic vampires, and I don't know, it's just going to be a fun vibe, I think. And I hate to put it as low as number 4, but that's kind of where I am right now. Number 3, The Origins of Horror. I love that the front zone is taking up all, I was going to call it Production Central, but all of Minion Land. It feels so weird to say, because once Minion Land opened, we really haven't had a zone that takes up that first street. It's always been kind of like that pocket as we're going into Hollywood, and then there's just been this dead space down Illumination Avenue. Here we are now. Illumination Avenue has all of these props up. It's got all these stages up. That's going to represent all of the houses, or at least the IP houses. Maybe it's going to represent all the houses. I don't know. It's going to represent all these zones. It's going to be this very strong opening statement. Again, it's going to tie into this idea of the conservatory and Sergio Navarro. I'm looking forward to see how this all plays out. I'm always a sucker for these table of contents zones. I don't know. I can't help but be excited to see what it looks like to see this mashup. I know one of my favorite memories of HHN of all time is walking through Horrors of Halloween and HHN 31, the Pumpkin Lord year, and just seeing 2 characters. I think it was the cat girl with the bat from Sweet Revenge, and then one of the tall skeleton guys from some of the other zone. From one of the others, I think it might have actually been Horror. He must have been like there, but this pumpkin stilt walker and this little cat girl, and they just gave each other a high five because they're teaming up on scaring each other, but they're from these different worlds. I just love to see that mashup happen. So I can't help but be excited for Origins of Horror and to see all the terror that they've got and all this mashup that they've got. That's why it's my number 3. Now, again, that was a lot of hype right there for Origins of Horror. How can 2 and 1 beat it? 2 and 1 definitely can beat it because they are spin-offs of some of my favorite houses of all time. And it's like, how do I parse it out? But I mean, if you know me, there's only one clear winner, so I'm not going to waste any more time about that. Number 2 for me is Mutations Toxic 20s. I love a good 1920s kind of era. Oh, Spirits of the Coven. Spirits of the Coven was that 1920s vibe, and I like that more than most. That was a good house. That was a good house. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But I love a good 1920s era. But I also love BuzzCon, who is the responsible party behind the toxic spillage going on in New York City. And if that name sounds familiar to you, that's because you probably also did Bugs Eaten Alive, and I can't tell if you love that as much as I did, but that is actually my comfort house. I loved Bugs Eaten Alive so much. I wish I had done it more, so like, I don't know, I could still feel it in my bones, because I love that house so much. And of course, we'll never get to experience it again, but I like that we get to experience the story, the continuing story of BuzzCon. And I know, like, it's not going to beat the Bugs this year. It's Toxic Spillage, it's Mutations this year. But I want to see how this lore develops. My little bug, Levin Hart, is very, very excited to see what BuzzCon is doing wrong this year. And of course, my number 1 most anticipated zone, if you know me, it was no surprise, the Cat Lady of Crooked Lane. This is a spinoff of Slaughter Cinema 2, and you might be like, I don't remember there being a Cat Lady movie in Slaughter Cinema 2. That's because you weren't looking closely, and I didn't notice this until the end of the year. But that is, as you're walking into the final room for the final scare, if you look to your left as you're getting out of the Zyborgs, there was a poster that said the Cat Lady of Crooked Lane. And now it's a zone over in Central Park area. You know, I think this probably would have landed at number 1 if it was just like Crooked Lane, the zone. and it's a spin-off of Slaughter Cinema 2. That might be enough for me to put it at my number 1. It could have beaten BuzzCon, but we won't know that. What I do know, though, is I basically am the cat lady of Crooked Lane, to my understanding of that. I love cats, and this is going to be the werecat zone. I'm beside myself, guys. I'm so beside myself. I can't wait to walk through this zone. I've walked through it in the daytime. I've walked through it with just the props. Please don't let me down, cat lady of Crooked Lane. I need to see the kitties. Enough said. And then just to go through the last couple of things very quickly. I think Club Horror is going to be fun. This is a street experience over in San Francisco. Don't know what to expect. I do kind of like that we have had those more club-based zones and experiences, like way back, retro HHN. Like I'm thinking like Lost Continent, Islands of Fear. That was a party. So like it still feels in that vibe. HHN was always supposed to be the world's biggest Halloween party, and I think this is going to capture that vibe. But I'm not much of a club and soul, so I think of the street experiences. I know of the street experiences. That's my least anticipated. I think this will be fun to go through as you go to like the Death Eaters Encounter or Nightmare Fuel or the back houses. But the street experience I'm looking forward to the most is, of course, Mel's Die-In Zombies. Mel's Die-In, as we know, is one of the most iconic parts of HHN, where they take the American Graffiti, Mel's Drive-In, shut off some of the letters, and now it's Mel's Die-In. It's very spooky. They leaned into the merch. Last year we got Mel's Die-In shirts last year. Now we're getting a whole experience with zombies on skates, and it's going to be 50s style, and I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see that come to life. And as far as shows go, I've always enjoyed Nightmare Fuel, but Nightmare Fuel Circus of Decay is just one of those where I'm like, oh, we're doing circus again? It kind of feels like when we had Halloween Nightmare Fuel and we had Halloween Nightmare Fuel Wildfire, and it was the same show, more or less, just more fire. Is this going to be like Nocturnal Circus, but more circus? I don't know. It feels too samey for me to be like super duper hyped. I thought if we were going to bring Nightmare Fuel back, we were going to transform it in another way, not build onto the circus theme. And again, I'll always be there for Nightmare Fuel. I like kind of I watch it for the plot, frankly, and the dancing. It's just, they're so skillful on that stage. What can I say? But the plot is always interesting. I love kind of piecing out the story and how all of it just kind of subtextually connects and textually connects, but definitely subtextually connects. What's the overall story that we're building around Nightmare Fuel? But here we are, Circus 2, Nightmare Fuel 5. I just hope it doesn't feel tired out. Compared to something like Hauntafonic, a ghoulish spectacular, the Lagoon Show is back. I'm so excited. We've said on the podcast numerous times what this event needed so desperately is another show. And we had another show. We had the Marathon of Mayhems. We had Ghoulish 1 back in HHN 31. But the past 2 years, we just haven't had that second show, and it felt like Nightmare Fuel was just bursting at the seams. The house queues were bursting at the seams. The attractions just weren't able, the rides weren't able to hold the rest of the capacity. But now here we are. Ghoulish is back. It's come back from the hurricane, because it got knocked out before the season was over because we had that really bad hurricane that September, and just the original show never came back. Here we are again with a follow-up to it. I love it. I love these Lagoon shows, not just because Lagoon shows are fun. I think a nighttime show can just really thematically connect your event in a lot of ways. I thought Ghoulish really was kind of the signature attraction of HHN 31 and how it tied everything together. That was just like the vibe seller for me. I'm excited to see how they do that this year, and even if it doesn't, the Ghoulish vibe is just a fun vibe. It's a great vibe, and I'm excited to see that on the Lagoon once again. And I hope you're looking forward to it too. But anyway, that was my hype list for HHN. I've talked on quite a bit. So I'll just say thank you for watching. I hope you check out some of our other stuff. Kelly and Bella, make sure you go and listen to their hype and the other videos. Go ahead and subscribe. And if you like this video, like the video. Hopefully it's down there. Could be over there. If you want to know more of our taste when it comes to HHN, go check out some of our HHN reviews from years past. Do go check those out. If you're new to HHN, go check out our HHN 32 per episode. I'll link it in the show notes. Even though that was specifically for HHN 32, and things have changed, of course, over the years. It does have some really good advice that's just good for all HHN seasons, so go ahead and check that out. If you want to follow us on socials, you can follow us at Theme Park Workshop on most places. Follow us on Twitter at WorkshopTP. And if you want to join our Patreon, patreon.com/themeparkworkshop. We've got bonus episodes and more. And if you don't, what we do hope is that we see you at HHN, specifically in the fog.